So it was in Ohio, with much of its public education being conducted in battered and obsolete school facilities, that the facade of nationwide enthusiasm for No Child Left Behind came apart at a rally in Columbus on October 2nd, 2004, at which U.S. congressmen, national union officials, a former Ohio governor, teachers, school administrators, parent activists, special education and school health technicians, and students from the public schools came to the State House to speak their minds about the Ohio education crisis and the unworkability of No Child Left Behind's grandiose demands for academic improvement in a state with a stagnant economy, massive job losses, and poverty and hunger becoming a norm, even for families with both parents working. Let's hear these speakers talk about the odds against kids achieving high academic standards in an economy that's in a free fall.
The state of Ohio funded public higher education, our colleges and universities in Ohio, at the same level as the surrounding states, we would today have 100,000 more kids in college than we do right now. 100,000. Now that's not just 100,000 young people who have lost their opportunity for a college education. But imagine the economic impact on this state in the years ahead by failing to have those kids get the kind of education they need to prepare them for useful and productive lives in our society and to lift the whole society above where it is today. And we have people wandering around saying, well, Ohio isn't doing so well economically. Well, if you want one good insight into why we're not doing as well as we should be doing, just take a look at the fact that we're failing to produce 100,000 more kids in our college system every year.
More than 25% of Ohio's third grade students did not pass the math in March of '04. The reading proficiency. For those students tested in October of '03, the percentage passing rate was even higher, 46.3. Among all fourth grade students who were administered the test in March of the proficiency, 36% scored below in reading, 35% scored below proficiency in math, and 32% scored below proficiency in citizenship, and 37% scored below proficiency in science. We've got a long way to come to bridge this achievement gap. Altogether, Ohio must advance 450,000 students, 450,000 students beyond the 75th percentile to get them to the state accountability of 100%. And that's required in the law. Even though the preliminary study shows that the estimated cost of the students to advance forward to that 100% percentile is going to be $1.5 billion.
Dr. George Wood is the principal of Federal-Hocking High School in southeastern Ohio. He's the founder of Wildwood Secondary School in Los Angeles, California. He's a professor at Ohio University. He somehow found time to edit his latest book, Many Children Left Behind, How the NCLB Act is Damaging Our Schools and Our Children. And he's a great dad. Please welcome George Wood.
Thank you, John. You know, I'm not really a rally speaker. I'm a high school principal. And every day, I'm a high school principal at a high school in the poorest county in the state of Ohio. And every day when I stand out in front of the school and welcome my kids in the door, I see firsthand the effects of leaving too many children behind. The kids that walk by me in the morning Many of them walk in our doors counting on us to serve the only 2 hot meals they're going to get in a day. They come to school in pain because this country is not seen fit to provide them with health and dental care. They come to school in clothes they have to wear over and over because their parents work in jobs that don't pay enough to provide them with several wardrobes. And believe me, several of them come to school not knowing where they're going to sleep that night. Now, it isn't that these kids and these families don't try and do better. We're the poorest county in the state. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the state. It's because these kids are members of probably the most overlooked class of Americans today, and that's the working poor. Now, they don't want you to feel sorry for them. I don't want you to right away have a drive and send us a bunch of blankets or something, right? That usually happens whenever we talk about what we deal with. Rather, we just want our kids to have a fair chance. And so when I heard that there would be legislation passed that would leave no child behind, I got to tell you, I was hopeful. You know, I was hopeful that America would finally decide that we really weren't going to leave any child behind. I was hopeful that America would do the following. We would provide health care for every child, not unreasonable in the richest country on the face of the earth. That we would immediately enact an increase in the minimum wage so that parents who work for a living can provide for their kids. That we would immediately push for equal funding of schools so the quality of a child's school didn't depend on where they happened to be born. That we would increase funding for Head Start. We would provide more subsidies for housing and childcare for children. And when it comes to schools, that we would do what we know makes a difference. And it isn't giving more tests. Look, I was a high school teacher. My God, if I'd known that just by giving kids another test every day they'd get smarter, that's all I would have done. But that doesn't make any difference. What makes a difference is the context, the environment in which kids go to school. Places where young people are in close proximity to powerful adults who can make a difference in their lives. Places where class sizes are reasonable, where kids aren't just running around from class to class every day trying to cover more and more material that makes less and less sense to them. I thought, and call me naive, that that was what would happen. I was more than disappointed. We have been given, on both a state and federal level, a horrible betrayal of our children and our communities. You've heard.
A woman called my office, and she said, I just wanted to share my concerns. She said, I want to tell you a little bit about my family. My husband died a few years ago. My son was killed in an accident not long ago, and my daughter and I make up our current family. She said, my daughter is a good girl. She attends school, she gets good grades, she plays 3 instruments in the band. And she came home the other day and she fell apart because she had been told because she missed passing the math proficiency test by 1 point that she would not be allowed to graduate with her classmates. And she said, my daughter was crushed. I had one of my staff members go visit the principal at that particular school, and he told my staff person, we are terribly upset. This was a good student, a good person. She worked hard. We don't know why she has been unable to pass that test the last time, failing by only 1 question. But we know she's a good student and a good person, and she deserves to graduate with her class, but my hands are tied. Anytime we approach a child or a teacher with that kind of unreasonable, unfair, irrational mandate, it is abusive to that child.